Marisha here, continuing my series on free things to do in London. And today I'm going to focus on science. So, if science is your thing or it's not your thing and you wish that you knew more about it, then these are some places that you can go. Now, I'm not going to talk about the Science Museum because I talked about that in the Big Eight. These are some smaller free museums that you can go to that are focused on some aspect of science. So, the first three that I'm going to talk about are all located in central London, really kind of within walking distance of each other, depending on how fit you are. Um, but definitely, if you are of, I think, average or above fitness, you could probably visit all three of these museums in a day by walking from one to the other. The first one is the Grant Museum of Zoology, and this is on the UCL campus. And this is a museum that's dedicated to animals and animal specimens. So you're talking taxidermied animals and you're talking about animals that are in jars, right? Like obviously dead. So you'll see and it's ceiling to it's floor to ceiling, like wall to wall, um jars of specimens and taxidermied animals. So anything you can imagine under the sun. Some of it's actually hard to see because it is, in a jar up way up top, and there's no way to like actually get up there, so you're sort of like craning your neck to try to see some stuff. But it is free, and so it's really hard to complain about these things because it was free. Um, but definitely you will, if you're interested in studying, well, zoology in animals and animal form and getting an idea to see what different animal skeletons look like, or what some animals look like in various stages of development, then this is the place to go. Similar to the Grant Museum of Zoology is the Hunterian Museum. Now, this is located in the Royal College of Surgeons, and it's named for John Hunter, a surgeon who collected all of these specimens. And like the Grant Museum of Zoology, it is a lot of things in jars, a lot of things in jars. And for this museum, I would issue a warning that you should not go to this museum if you have a weak stomach, because you're going to see not only animals and animal parts in jars, but also human parts in jars. And a lot of them are um, examples of abnormalities, whether it's deformities or diseases. And so, you'll see like a cross section of a liver with like cancer, or there's one thing that I remember is there was like the head of a bird that had like a talon or a horn growing out of its head because it had been bred that way. Like it was very like Island of Dr. Moreau kind of weird experiments. I think that one was a result of. And definitely a lot of what John Hunter, I think, was trying to collect is specimens so that he could study the effects of like diseases on the body. And so you're going to be seeing like a lot of stuff that I think if you have a weak stomach could actually, um, make you a bit green about the gills. But if that doesn't bother you, then it's definitely worth it because it's free, and it is a lot of specimens in jars. And it can be very fascinating to just kind of see like, okay, well, what does a gallbladder that's like uh swollen from some disease look like? I mean, it's just like it's a lot of kind of just random things like that. Uh, Again, in the area is the Wellcome Collection, again named for someone named Wellcome. That's two L's, and it sounds like, oh, welcome to our collection. But it's actually two L's named after a person, and that is a more sizable museum, and it's a really interesting one. It tends to be focused on kind of science of the body and medicine. It's undergone some changes over the last couple of years. The first year when I came here and I visited, they had a whole section that was sort of the original collection that Wellcome had, and it had a lot of sort of old medical instruments and various specimens and stuff. Over time, they sort of started to get rid of that because there were some um, sort of colonialist and racist implications to some of the things that were on display. But they still have some things on display that are, for example, like history of like medical instruments. They almost always have a special exhibit on that is free, right? So, unlike most of the other museums that have a special exhibit, this one is also free. And examples of those have been they did one on milk once, that sort of talked about like the history of milk and its sort of cultural significance, the way that it had been marketed over time, um, the trend toward coming up with alternatives to milk, what's tying into kind of the marketing, like the nutritional aspect of milk, what is its effect on the human body. They had another exhibit that was kind of an art exhibit by an artist who is paralyzed as a result of I think like a fever or something, or some kind of the onset of a disease when he was like a older child. And it was a display of kind of his recollection of that and the things that were meaningful to him during that time, but also kind of walking you through what it is like to undergo like a long hospital stay and what it's like for him to now navigate the world as an artist who is paralyzed. So a lot of very like different, diverse sort of things that they will put on display. Another one was about eyes and kind of how eyes are viewed or what they symbolize in various cultures. But then also part of that exhibit was kind of a history of like ophthalmology and like medicine of the eye. So it is always kind of tied into usually like medicine or something to do with biology and the human body. They do have a permanent exhibit that is kind of about the human body. So that's the Wellcome collection. They also have a pretty good gift shop. Interesting books about anatomy and different sciences, but also like greeting cards and toys and like really just kind of quirky gifts, right? You can get keychains that are like fuzzy versions of like microbes and things. And they do have a cafe. So that's a kind of more sizable one of what I'm going to tell you about with this science thing. The other ones, there's no, cafe or gift shop for Grant Museum of Zoology or the Huntarian or this last one that I'm going to tell you about, which is a little bit further afield. It's still central London, but it's removed from the other three. It's closer over by the Royal Academy of Art. So I talked about that in a previous video. You might want to pair these two together. And that is the Faraday Museum, which is actually on the campus of the Royal Institution. And as you can guess, it's dedicated to Michael Faraday, and it has his original laboratory on display, as well as a lot of different inventions and information about various people who worked for the Royal Institute of like Sciences. So that one is a little bit more sciency and a little bit less specific to like the medicine side of things, right? So Grant Zoology Huntarian Wellcome has to do a lot with biology, right? Either animal or human biology, and especially with the Wellcome and the Huntarian with the medicine side of things. Faraday is more for people who are interested in, like physics and chemistry and those sciences, because you're going to find information about those things. And again, not just Faraday, but other scientists who were involved in the Royal Institute at one time and some of the inventions and the works that they did. Um, Again, these are all a lot smaller museums, so it's, you might take like half an hour in them. Again, if it's really, really like something that your passion is super interested in, you could spend more time. But I think for the average person, these are small enough that, again, maybe only half an hour. And like I said, I would recommend that if you're kind of on like a science kick, that you do the first three all in one day because they're all close to each other. And then maybe I would recommend doing the Faraday in conjunction with the Royal Academy of Arts because those are kind of close to each other. There's lots more coming, like I said, lots more free stuff coming down the pike. In the meantime, like, subscribe, tell your friends how gnarly this channel is, and I'll see you next time.